Hello, everyone, and welcome to the P1 Broadcasting Network. It's Murph. It's Collins. It's Monday night, and you know what that means. It is time for the Indy Open Top Split Series, live tonight from the Homestead Miami Speedway, progressively banked, very fast, and it is a night race tonight, isn't it, Jacob?
The sun is going down as we speak. We'll see if it gets all the way below the horizon before this bad boy wraps up.
We are going to see if it gets all the way below the horizon, but you know what that means. Whenever you see the sun start to go down, you see speeds start to climb, and right now we are headed toward some big time numbers. Let's have a look at cars on the track, because we've got them right now. We've got Alan Bruteau, and he is the series points leader. He's navigating the Homestead Miami Speedway on his second lap. Our guy Clindy has the provisional pole, 214.745 miles an hour. Defending series champ Rashad Craig is to his outside.
But remember, it ain't over until that timer hits zero.
You know, that's very true, Jacob. The thing about this race is we had exactly 28 cars sign up, and so as we watch Ellis Spice, he's coming back to pit road, actually. Ellis is not going to take time. We had 28 cars sign up. We almost had a single split. However, we didn't get that, did we, Jacob? They had one too many cars, so a 14-car top split. Good strength of field, 4,500 nearly. But a short one, and usually, Jacob, that means you're going to see a lot of green flag action.
That would be the hope. You would think with less cars on track, there'd be less opportunity for people to get into each other, but we've seen stranger things in the past.
We have most definitely seen stranger things. We've seen stranger things at this racetrack. We are ready for that 125 laps here at the Homestead Miami Speedway, and we've got a grid for our fans at home. On the pole, it is Kyle Clinworth, 214.749 miles an hour. Starting his outside, teammate Blake Andrich in the Rogue Racing entry. An all-Rogue front row, 214.632 miles an hour. Rashad Craig and Ty Keela are going to make up row number 2. Marco Brazil, he's back. It is an oval after all. Marco, just a shade over 214 miles an hour. He'll be flanked by Casey Pavlonas from P6. Anna Klimek, Alan Bruteau are going to go from row number 4. Seb Alexander and the SGE King, Caleb Brashear, will round out your top 10 in 11th. It's Logan Edwards, the second car out of Luke Mansky Racing Esports stable. Olivier Samunu, David Hinger are going to round out the field. Ellis Spice did not take time as everybody loads in. Again, a short field, 28 cars signed up for the TV slot. And there you have it, Jacob. It is definitely a short field, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not too unaccustomed to see races where they barely pip over this split mark to get to around this like dozen or so cars, but that does give you a good opportunity to kind of see where the field's kind of going to separate, and that's going to be the big factor here tonight, I think, is there going to be enough separation between, say, the front half and the back half of the field through the opening portions of this race.
Well, and are we going to see lap traffic? Usually that's something that plays a huge role at Homestead. Are we going to see lap traffic? Are we going to say pits? Are we going to see pit lane confrontons? Are we going to see some of the things that we normally see at Homestead? Or guys, knowing that it's a short field, just going to try to keep their powder dry and save their stuff? You know, there's some fast cars up front led by Clindy, Andrich, Craig, and Ty Keela. That front 4 is some of the best in the business, aren't they, Jacob?
Certainly on the pavement. I mean, you'd have to imagine that if you're going to have that many cars up the front, that puts them in good control from the drop of the green here. It's a matter of maybe how long does it take for somebody to break them up, right? You know, we talk about being able to control lanes, and there are many lanes here to control with all that progressive banking in play.
There are indeed. We've been hearing from drivers all week long that this has the potential to be a bottom line fest, but Homestead is well known and very famous for having multiple grooves. Traditionally here, the fast lane is not around the bottom, it's right along the wall.
Yes, the recently coined Larson line, as they like to call it. But we're about to head out of turn 4 and go green here.
You know, that's in my way of thinking, that's not the Larson line. That's the Harry Gant or Richard Petty line. Kyle Clinworth is going to lead him down from the pole. He's got Blaze Andrich, Rashad Craig, and Ty Keela behind him. The green flag is out from Barney, and we are underway here from Homestead. Already Clinworth establishes his lead. Rashad Craig dives to the bottom of Blaze Andrich. He's going to take P2, and you're already starting to see guys just want to get to the bottom, Jacob.
Yeah, you saw pretty much everybody on that bottom lane who had the opportunity to get down there, as we're more or less single file, barring a couple cars in the mid-pack here. You see Povolones running all the way near the wall alongside Brazil.
You are. Casey Povolones is going to the front in that high groove. Casey Povolones went from 7th to 4th in one set of corners, and now he works to the outside of Ty Keela. Povolones is going for third in the Votive Racing League machine.
And that may be one of those things where he's got a car that he wants on that outside groove, right? You can build that momentum, kind of get in the toe of people and kind of slingshot off the corner. That tends to be a pretty good way to make up time here at Homestead, as we see them all kind of slice back and forth off the corner. We'll see if he stays committed to that line now that he's more clear of the bulk of the field.
Well, right now he's got a face full of dirty air from Ty Keela. Ty Keela moved up into the second lane, and that kind of stalls Povolones' progress. One of the things that'll happen is if you get up there and there's nobody else up there, Jacob, you can run the car very free. You don't have to worry about lifting from the dirty air from the cars in front, and you can make a ton of time. Povolones, though, now he's run up on the back of Ty Keela, Rashad Craig, and Ty Keela, Jacob, is offsetting, and when he's offsetting, well, that means that Povolones doesn't have the clean air anymore. Povolones now, we're on board with him. He's going to try to drill the very top line all the way around, and he's going to make it to the outside of Ty Keela. Povolones is going for third.
We'll see if he's able to make hay on the outside. Keela's still got Rashad Craig ahead of him, kind of pulling him down the straightaways. We'll see Povolones clear off turn 4 here, move him to the third spot.
We do indeed. Now Povolones is going to make his move to the high side of defending series champion Rashad Craig. That Indy Alliance car, known more as a road racing specialist, but he has developed very quietly into a very, very solid oval racer. Povolones, though, he's working on the high side. He's going to make it up to second here before we get back to the start-finish line. I don't think Rashad Craig can hold him off. And the question then becomes, Jacob, are these drivers interested in holding Povolones off, or do they plan on letting him go?
Well, I think that entirely depends on where they think they're going to get the most benefit out of having him on the track, right? If maybe he can pull them along in the tow and kind of break the air, that might be enough to say, hey, let him go, and we'll try to stay with him. But at the same time, you may have the opposite case in which his car is so much faster, it may just pull away from the field, and we're about to see that as he clears Rashad Craig off turn 4. Yeah,
we haven't. That's a rarity in which you don't see drivers go around Rashad Craig like that on an oval, unless he strategically is letting it happen. But also, we don't know the setups that are dialed into these cars. This is an open setup race after all, Jacob. Could it be that Povolones, dialed some of the wing out and he's just turned it into a short run rocket ship? Could be. Another guy that is famous for that is mired deep in the pack, Marco Brazil, and Marco started fairly high up in the field. He started 5th. Marco Brazil is already back to 9th, and he is fading pretty quickly back there around Anna Klimek, just not able to run the bottom, hold it down on that bottom, Jacob.
Yeah, he's basically pulled the inverse of Seb Alexander's. I believe Alexander started around that 9th, 10th spot. He's up to 5th. So we'll see if the IAR driver in Alexander can start moving closer to his teammates or his technical partners near the front of the field here.
Well, he's definitely given a good shot. That technical partnership currently has the top 6 locked out, with the exception of Casey Povolones. Caleb Brashear runs in 7th, Klimek 8th, Brazil 9th, Alan Berteau is 10th. It is worth mentioning, we mentioned Rashad Craig, the defending series champion, as we see Alexander all the way up to the high side, and you were on board. He went right around Rashad Craig. That's going to open the door for Blaze Andrich to do the same. On the bottom, Andrich, though, appears as though he's going to slide in behind Rashad Craig. But I was going to say, it is worth mentioning Brashear in 7th, and the reason is Caleb Brashear and Alan Berteau are the early leaders in the points. Usually, we don't start talking about points until week 10 or so, but those two have quite a bit of distance cleared between the rest of the field here, and so it is worth mentioning that there is the makings of a championship fight on the line as we watch Caleb Brashear. He's got Anna Klimek on the top and Marco Brazil on the bottom behind him. Marco currently, again, runs in that 9th spot, and Jacob, that's not a place that we are accustomed to seeing him on an oval.
No, we tend to at least see him play a factor at the front for at least the opening stage of the race, if not multiple stages, if he can keep his car up there. But unfortunately, Brazil falling deep into the order at this stage of the race, that'll be difficult to recover from.
It most certainly will. Do want to hop on board Casey Povolonis, the cheese man. He's got the Votive Racing League machine up into the top, up into the 2nd spot. We'll ride in his left eyeball, and there's Povolonis. You see him very smooth, 5th gear, all the way around the top. He's not really making any time on Kyle Clinworth in the lead, but he's not really losing anything either, Jacob.
I think the biggest thing that he's going to have to figure out is if he can stay out and time the pit stop accordingly to get out in a spot where he can be more in the toe of Clinworth ahead. If not, if he can maybe do a leapfrog likewise, as he is only around a second away from Kyle here. So it only takes a little bit of slip up for that gap to close very, very quickly through a pit cycle.
You know it does, and you're exactly right. But he can't exactly get too comfortable where he is because Ty Keela has started to reel him back in, and Seb Alexander in that 4th spot is coming. Alexander and Andrich have both cleared Rashad Craig, and there's Rashad, and he is just about to fall into the clutches of the Luke Mansky Racing Esports machine of Caleb Brashear. Brashear very quick, and Anna Klimek is coming as well.
Yeah, Ty's looking to the inside of Povolonis for the 2nd spot now. Looks like we're going to slowly start to see battles develop as we see the comers and goers that we commonly see on these oval tracks, right? You have cars that maybe launch really well, but then maybe get a bit tight over the course of the run. We'll have to see drivers kind of work their in-car tools, try to see if they can make any sort of line adjustments or anything to that effect, see if they can keep their position as they lock in for the rest of this run here.
We do indeed. They're 2x2. Now they're not 2x2 on top of each other, but Blaze Andrich has pulled to the inside of Seb Alexander as well. And look, you know, you don't know what's on these cars. It could be that Povolonis has dialed some downforce out of that Votive Racing League machine, and he's willing to have a very fast car in a short run. You mentioned pit stops earlier, Jacob. Traditionally, these cars run about 50. They can get about 50 laps at a place like Homestead. Is that what we're thinking about for a run here?
I'd suspect so. I think it'd be unlikely to see this be a single stop race. The fuel save probably a bit too much to try to make like a 60 some odd lap stint happen. So I think we're going to see 2 stops tonight, probably somewhere around that lap 50 neighborhood, and then probably around lap 100 for maybe a half tank of gas to the finish.
Very much so. The best battle on the track is still Casey Povolonis on the high side. Ty Keela is on the bottom. The Rogue Racing entry cannot clear Povolonis, and so they continue side by side down the back. Blaze Andrich has now cleared Seb Alexander, and so Blaze will move into the 4th spot. And there's Ty Keela. He's made it clear of Povolonis, and there is the view from Casey Povolonis. And back from Ty Keela. Gives you a good idea just hearing the car, how much these drivers are playing with the throttle or not playing with the throttle, Jacob. Povolonis is so strong on that outside, though. He's going to get a huge run, and we'll see if he can't maneuver back around Ty Keela. You know he wants to. Casey Povolonis is a very, very rapid up-and-coming driver.
I think the biggest thing with the outside lane here is you kind of have to wind it up and build that momentum. We see it a lot talked about when you talk about maybe short tracks or in qualifying where you've got the cars kind of way out near the wall trying to build as much speed as they can as they make their quick laps. That's kind of what you got to do here at Homestead to build that run from the outside. Is you kind of got to wind it up a couple times, get the draft down the straightaways. We're going to see kind of how that plays out with Andrich on the outside of Alexander here. He's going to get the toe down the front stretch here, but that's how you make passes or make hay on the outside there, is being able to kind of wind your car up lap over lap.
Well, and it helps that Homestead has progressive banking, Jacob. And so the bottom where you see Casey Povolonis, Seb Alexander right now, that's 18 degrees of banking on the bottom through the corners. At the very top, there's 20 degrees of banking, so it helps you to be up on that top line. The difference is, and they're almost 3 wide now, Seb Alexander on the bottom, he's going to take the challenge to Povolonis. One, it is very difficult to hold that car on the bottom, lap over lap over lap over lap. You tend to overheat either the right front or the right rear, depending on how your car is set up and how you're driving it. But the top can be very difficult on tires here, too. This track has not been repaved, Jacob, since it has not been repaved since it was reconfigured.
And reconfigured it's been. I think this place has gone through, 3 or 4 different iterations before they got to this one?
So the original, and that's worth mentioning, the original track was a 1.5 mile Indianapolis. And so it was a 1.5 mile rectangle. That lasted 2 years. And Greg Moore held the track record there, 28,385, I believe was the track record on that one. Greg Moore, 1996. It was then made into a 1.5 mile flat oval with 6 degrees of banking in the corners and 3 degrees on the straights. That lasted 5 years. Dario Franchitti held the record, 26,825 on that configuration. Then, so we're on our 3rd configuration of Homestead. In 2003, it was configured basically into a progressively banked old Atlanta, which this track kind of mimics what the Atlanta Motor Speedway was before it was turned into a quad oval. Very long, very wide, sweeping corners, high banks, and pretty short, comparatively so, straightaways. While we've been talking, Seb Alexander had moved into second, and now Blaze Andrich is going to move past Seb, so make it Clinworth at the point, and he's drawn out to a 1.6 second lead. Andrich and Alexander are going to swap second now, and I don't know that they're not swapping in a planned fashion, Jacob.
They've been going back and forth for a couple laps here. You got to think to some extent that's got to be coordinated if they've repeated it so many times.
Very much so, and they are making ground on Kyle Clinworth. Last time through, Clindy, and we'll get the stopwatch out this time, 25,775. Andrich, 25,753. So they are ever so slightly edging forward. Clindy had been as much as 1.8 seconds ahead before these two started teaming up, and they've got Ty Keela in 4th behind him. Keela is another 0.7 of a second back in Casey Povolonis. The Cheese, he's fallen back to 5th, and he's got trouble coming in the form of Rashad Craig in 6th.
Yeah, that's one thing I've noticed too, is while there's been some good passing near the front here, the field hasn't completely fallen away at the back. You've got Craig, right behind Povolonis, but then about a second back, you've got Brashear and Klemek fighting for 7th and 8th, and then Bertoz's another second down the road from there. So if anything happens here, there's going to be a lot of cars that can kind of maybe accordion back together and have some fun.
Speaking of fun, I am very, very surprised at Marco Brazil. Normally one of the fastest cars on a road course. Brazil has fallen back to 10th, kind of on his own accord. And Jacob, you talked about pit windows. Traditionally, Homestead, a track that is very, very rough on tires. Right now, the difference in pace is about half a second through the field, good to bad from new to current tires. So, who's going to be the first one to dive on pit road? Is it going to be Marco Brazil? Is it going to be Alan Berteau or Caleb Brashear, one of the championship contenders? Logan Edwards is in that fight too. Is it going to be Casey Povolonis? Povolonis is under fire from Rashad Craig. Craig, all the way on the bottom in that Indy Alliance machine. He's going to try to get back to 5th.
I mean, you've got to imagine it's probably going to be one of the cars that's spent the most time in clean air. I wouldn't be entirely surprised to see Kyle Clenworth maybe join Brazil on the early end or the pointy end of the pit strategy call. He's been out front the whole way through, and there's really only so much you can do all by your lonesome to save gas at a track like Homestead.
Well, and what you got to think of, too, is, you know, for Clindy, he's got now a 1.9 second lead. We're going to jump on board Rashad Craig. I'm interested to see, by the way, if Rashad is shifting. He is not, at least through 1 and 2. If you're Clindy, that huge lead works out to a big-time advantage because you can almost just wait. Seb Alexander now has established second place. Rashad Craig, I got to believe Rashad is just inching his way forward, knowing maybe he's got the better setup underneath that Indy Alliance machine, and also thinking he's probably been saving some fuel, Jacob, and he's also a driver that likes to run long.
And that could be advantageous too, right? As you could maybe catch a yellow through the pit cycle. We talk about how easy it is a lot of these ovals to make a mistake coming on or off pit road. Homestead's another interesting one where we're going to be seeing drivers pit off of turn number 3 using that access road around 3 and 4. And that's got potential for drivers to maybe miss their mark, hit the grass, and spin, especially given that it's a very tight access lane here at Homestead to try to make it through to the pit lane.
It does. And not only that, the access road is very slick. There's a very sharp left-hand turn at the end of it. When we get drivers calling out to pit, let me know, Jacob, and I will jump on board with somebody just to show the fans at home exactly what that's like. The other thing is, it is very, very treacherous to get off a pit lane here. The access road on the way out is also very slick. It's very dusty, and on top of that, you're on cold tires. You're going slow. You don't have the full ground effect thing going. It can be very rough trying to get off a pit road here too.
Yeah, it's not too unlike you'd say maybe a Gateway or even a Nashville super speedway in terms of the pit lane, especially getting off of it, is you've got so much time that you're spending rounding a corner trying to get back onto the track that you kind of almost have to treat it like it's its own animal.
You know, you most certainly do. And drivers in this car, we get kind of spoiled sometimes because we race at Indianapolis so much. The warm-up lanes at Indy are perfect, and they're very easy, especially on pit exit, to go flat out on. You go to some other tracks, they're very dusty, they're very dirty, and they're not as well maintained. The one here is especially bumpy trying to get in pit road. Not only that, but there's the curbing from the road course. If you're not careful on the access road coming in, you can actually hit the curb on the road course, launch yourself, and put yourself right out of the race.
Yeah, that's something that we don't see at a ton of other tracks, right, is having things like road course curbs situated kind of in very awkward spots.
That is very true. Rashad Craig has moved to the inside of Casey Povolonis. Tequila has come to the pit lane, and so as Craig moves forward into what is now 4th place, Tequila is on the pit road, and we're going to watch him at lap 43. We're going to get on board the roll bar, and we're going to show you what it's like to get off of pit road here at Homestead. There's Ty. He's up on the jacks. He's got the revs going. Clutch in. Launch out. Here he goes. You hear him playing with it, Jacob?
Yeah, in and out of the throttle, just trying to get to the point where he could commit full tilt, and off of the access road he'll go, and he'll start heading down into 3 and 4 one more time.
Most certainly so. All eyes on this man now, Kyle Clenworth. Povolonis and Marco Brazil have also made their pit stops at lap 44. So Tequila went 43. Brazil and Povolonis 44. Tequila, the first of the leaders to make his stop. Do want to thank everybody for tuning in, by the way. If you haven't already done it, make sure you smash the like button on the video, ring the bell, subscribe to P1, be notified of all future iRacing action just like this. We've got an action-packed schedule coming up. We like to call Monday night the past, the present, and the future of IndyCar racing in the iRacing simulator. Right now, you're looking at the present, and the present is Kyle Clinworth with a 2.1 second lead. Ella Spice, by the way, just pulled in the pit lane. But Clindy is the present with a 2.1 second advantage over Seb Alexander and Blaze Andrich. As we're looking at, I believe that's Ella Spice. And Clindy is coming on a pit road. And so here we go. Watch coming in. And now watch off the left here. There's that road course curve I was talking about. Now you got to brake to get down. You got to brake down to get to pit lane speed. Clindy does it. And he is on the pit lane for his pit stop. That's going to hand the lead to Rogue Racing teammate Blaze Andrich. Seb Alexander has also come in. And Rashad Craig, just as we suspected, Jacob, is running the tank dry on his Indy Alliance machine.
I would think that's probably the smartest thing to do if you're in that position, right? There's not a ton of time to be gained or lost any other way on the track, unless you've got maybe cars you can work with, pull a tow. But at some point in this going, you've got to just commit to trying something that the leaders aren't doing, and staying out long seems to be about one of the only things that the leaders haven't done tonight.
You know, that's very true. The front 7 have not pitted. Everybody from Clindy on back in 8th has made their pit stop. We'll keep an eye on the stopwatch for Kyle Clinworth. The next lap is going to be his flyer. Blaze Andrich leads it. Rashad Craig in 2nd, and there's Rashad. Give the defending champ his due. Caleb Brashear is 3rd, and Brashear in the Luke Mansky car all the way at the very top of the speedway, and he is coming to the pit road. And here you go, on board Brashear, and let's compare him to Clindy when Clindy came in. A little bit more aggressive for Brashear.
One thing I am noticing is that it's Seb Alexander and Clinworth fighting for what would effectively turn into the lead. So Alexander got a really good in and out on his pit stop, and they're fighting with other cars just ahead of them, trying to work through the draft as we'll see 2 cars hit the pit lane in front of them.
Absolutely so. That's David Hinger and Olivier Simonu. Rashad Craig continues to lead it, but this is the battle for what is effectively the lead. Seb Alexander has taken that lead from Kyle Clinworth, and that's a huge... that is a huge, Jacob, time differential there. Remember, when Clindy came in, he had over a 2-second lead, and now he has got a side pod full of Seb Alexander as they swap. Alan Berteau is coming to pit road. Rashad Craig is on the pit lane, and so the cycle is complete with 52 of 125 complete. We mentioned, and this becomes the battle for the lead, I mentioned this is the presence of IndyCar racing, and Clindy and Seb Alexander are certainly the presence of IndyCar racing and iRacing right now. The past of IndyCars in the sim is going to be live 9:05 p.m. Gary Godso, LGN are going to bring you the Onyx Racing League Lotus 79s, meant to mimic the early 1980s marches. They'll be on at 9:05 Eastern Standard Time. And then the nightcap, Jacob Collins is going to be back at 10 o'clock with the Indy Next Road Series. And where's the Indy Next Series, Jacob, tonight?
It'll be 9 p.m. Eastern. We're right on top of Onyx this week. So we'll be at Suzuka for our last international round of this season, and it might rain. There might be precipitation in play.
There could be, so tune that one in. Open wheel cars in with moisture added is always fun. And then of course tomorrow night you've got the flagship broadcast, 7:15 Eastern Standard. I had forgotten the time change for your race, Jacob. 7:15 Eastern Standard on P1. Gary Godso and his team will bring you the Indy Oval Series Top Split, followed immediately thereafter by Jacob Collins and the Indy Next Oval Top Split. The Onyx or the Horizon Series is off this weekend. I believe the Formula Indy Series is in action. They'll be live at 8:20 Eastern on Wednesday. Thursday night, Luca Tedesco and myself are going to bring you round number 5 of the Indy Next Thrustmaster Pro Qualifying Series. And we had some controversy last week, Jacob.
It's quite the finish.
It was quite the finish indeed. Clindy leads it from Seb Alexander. Blaze Andrich and Casey Povolones are going after it for third spot. Ty Keela is an interested observer in fifth. There is a large tire differential on these cars. Andrich, 6 laps on his current set. Povolones 13, Ty Keela 14. Marco Brazil has moved up into 6th, but he's got 13 laps on his tires. Caleb Brashear is all over the back of Brazil, along with Anna Klimek. Caleb Brashear has 6 laps on his current set of shoes.
You're supposed to stick in the Firestone black sidewall tire.
Well,
Get your ad read in.
You know, there are no alternate tires on a super speedway, Jacob. Although, if there were, this track might be one where the alternate red sidewall tires might be of an advantage just because of the difference in grip levels, the progressive banking. Another one might be Texas if they still went there in real life. Might be a track that would be attractive to that. Anna Klimek, Marco Brazil, Caleb Brashear. This is the battle for 6th, 7th, and 8th spot. They are all on top of one another, and it is the best battle on the race course. Do want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you haven't done so as we near halfway, make sure you smash the like button on the video, ring the bell, subscribe to P1, be notified of all future iRacing broadcasts just like this one. Jacob, as we get toward halfway, it feels like we've kind of just settled in now.
Yeah, and that seems to kind of be par for the course once you get deeper into a race, at least in my experience here at Homestead, is the field kind of figures itself out relatively quickly. You'll see kind of a big gap start to develop throughout the various portions of the field, and then it's kind of just figuring, well, what can I do to make up a little bit of ground that is left to be gained from where I'm standing right now?
You know, very true, and, you know, the drivers, even at this point, you're already thinking about when you're going to make that final stop, when's the most advantageous time to do it? Have I played my cards right? Rashad Craig is a lap down in 14th spot. Rashad, I believe, had an issue getting onto pit road. He did not get a speeding ticket, but he had a bit of an issue getting onto pit road. So Rashad Craig has fallen a lap off the pace. But, you know, Jacob, it's, you know, these guys and gals are really just kind of, You're in a lull, and if you're somebody like Logan, or if you're somebody like Ella Spice, riding around here, you've got Olivier Samunu behind you, you've got David Hinger back there, a second off the pace. You know, you're kind of thinking, just what can I do to get closer, right? What do I need to make happen? What adjustments can I make?
I think the biggest thing for a lot of these guys is just figuring out where they feel like their car is maybe lacking something, right? We've seen guys like Casey Povolones charge all the way basically to the front of the field, aside from making a pass for the lead. And he's kind of settled in, kind of in that second group of cars between himself and Ty Keela. You know, you've got to think maybe there was something to be said for having a car that hung in longer on the long run. We saw him, once other cars started to gather back to him, he kind of fell backwards a little bit. And it's kind of settled in where he is at now. And it's kind of that cat and mouse game that comes from where your car settles in and what's ultimately going to win you the race. And I think we have a battle for the lead now.
We have. Speaking of cat and mouse, these two have been duking it out for the last 3 or 4 laps. Kyle Clinworth and Seb Alexander are putting up a show at the front of the field. That's Alexander in the top line, the black, bronze, and gold in the Alliance machine. He's on the top. Kyle Clinworth in the Votive Racing League sponsored Rogue Racing entry is on the bottom. That, of course, is, what is it, magenta? Help me out. I'm not, Collins, I am not a...
I think it's magenta. Either that or a fuchsia, maybe?
Fuchsia, magenta, and silver. At any rate, these two are leading it, and they are enjoying doing so. I guarantee you they're having fun. Blaze Andrich in another Rogue Racing entry is third. And that's the front pack. And then you come back, you've got about 3 seconds back to Ty Keela and Casey Povolones. Keela and the Cheese Man are fighting it out for fourth and fifth, and they've been doing that for about the last 10 laps. These two have been tied together at the hip. Tyquila, remember, was the earliest adopter. He's 25 laps into his current run. Tyquila may be looking to make his final stop here, Jacob, within the next 15 laps or so. So we'll keep an eye on that. But there's Tyquila and Povolonis. And then you've got Anna Klimek and Caleb Brashear. They have separated themselves by 1.8 seconds over Marco Brazil. Marco Brazil has fallen back into the clutches of Alain Berteau and Logan Edwards. There's Marco. He leads Berteau and Edwards. So there's those three. And then in 11th, you've got Olivier Simonu. Simonu is basically riding by himself. He is clear of David Hinger by 2.5 seconds, and he's got 5 seconds up the road to Logan Edwards. And then David Hinger and Ellis Spicer together. Rashad Craig runs by himself 1 lap down after a mistake on pit entry. And Jacob, we've got some questions about weather in the chat as Blaze Andrich goes for the lead on Seb Alexander.
Yeah, I was watching Andrich kind of sneak into that picture very slowly, and we'll see if he's able to hold on to it coming into the final stint. You know, we're not that far away from maybe some of these other guys near the front pit stops as well, so let's see if he can stay in it for that final run of the finish.
Let's see, indeed. They've relegated Kyle Clinworth back to third. Andrich now to the bottom of Seb Alexander, and there goes Andrich. There goes Seb to the top. Andrich will slide up. And I'd bet you a shiny new dime that Alexander is going to go right back around him here on the top. He does not, actually, so I just lost a dime to Jacob Collins.
I'll take a dime or 2 or 3.
Can you even buy anything with a dime anymore, Jacob?
Could you buy anything with a dime ever?
You know, I can remember a time when you could get a piece of gum for a penny.
That makes you significantly older than me, Mark. I don't seem to remember that being a thing.
You could get it. It was called Ford Gum, and there were little vending machines all over my hometown. Man, you could get the gumball machines. You get a piece of Ford Gum for a penny. I'm old enough to remember the 5 sticks of Wrigley's being a quarter. I didn't even know if they sell those anymore. Do they, Jacob?
I'm not one that frequents the candy or the gum aisle at the store.
I don't even know if they sell those anymore. I can remember those when I was managing drugstores. I can remember we sold a ton of those things. The Winter Fresh gum for a quarter. 5 or 6 sticks of gum. We used to buy those all the time. I don't even know if they have those anymore. I don't even know if they sell those anymore, or if it's gone to
You know who's looking wintry fresh though, Mark, is this Blaze Andrich guy leading the race here. He's started to walk away from Seb Alexander and Kyle Clinworth.
You know he has, and Shane Coker mentioned it, that Andrich's tire management has been pristine. He's got a 3-lap advantage over Alexander and Clinworth. He's been out 25 laps, so they're 28. And I think that Alexander and Clindy, they got to fight and burned their stuff up, and Andrich just kind of very quietly managed the situation and managed to drive right past them. As we work 77 of 125, we'll start counting backwards. We would anticipate final stops to come anywhere between 40 and 30 to go is what we're thinking, although they could conceivably go as far as 25. I doubt we'll see them go that far, though, Jacob.
No, we didn't see a ton of guys stretch it too far in the opening stint. I can't imagine we'll see tons of guys try to stretch it even further in the second stint.
I doubt it. I do want to flip back because Alain Berteau is now all over the gearbox of Marco Brazil. Brazil, at one point in the pit cycle, had moved up to 6th spot. With 48 laps to go, he is now in the clutches of Alain Berteau. Berteau is going to dive to the bottom. Logan Edwards is going to try to find the bottom as well. Move Berteau in the 8th spot, Brazil in the 9th, and I would imagine that Logan Edwards will also move past Marco in pretty short order. Brazil, along with Casey Povolonis and Tyquila, have the oldest tires on the racing surface, and I gotta think they're thinking about making a pit stop here in the next 5 to 10 laps.
That would be probably expected, given that I think Keela came in on lap 43 the first time around. So that'd be about, what, 5 or 6 laps from now. We'll see him maybe make a stop down the pit lane if he keeps that pace consistent. So
Yeah,
not too long.
There you go. There's the age of the tires for each of the automobiles on the speedway. You see Blaze Andrich at 29. He was one of the last to come into the pit lane. Rashad Craig stayed out the longest, but he got bit with his pit entry, and so Rashad Craig is hoping it cycles through and he's able to stay out and get his lap back. Meanwhile, everybody else, starting with Ty Keela, they're going to be looking for pit stops. I would imagine Ty is probably thinking somewhere between 40 and 38 to go. We're probably going to see the rest of these drivers in with about 35 to 30 to go, Jacob.
That would make sense, especially if you're a guy like an Andre now who's now going to be in control. We saw Kyle Clenworth kind of struggle with his pit stop from the lead earlier and fall back into the clutches of a Seb Alexander. Let's hope that's not an event that's repeated by his teammate here at the front leading now.
There it is, and you mentioned Clindy. Do want to welcome all the Clindy heads into the chat. There's Clindy. He is second. He's got Seb Alexander, and these two, they fought for the lead at the start of the race. They fought for the lead in the middle of the race. They're fighting each other for second right now, and they just can't get off. They can't get away from one another, Jacob.
Well, I think at this point they're probably just out here having fun, right? We got to remember, at the end of the day, Mark, we're out here to have fun.
We are here to have fun indeed, and we're having fun having all of you watch us. If you haven't already done it, do us a solid. Hit the like button on the video, ring the bell, subscribe to P1 so that you can be notified of all future iRacing broadcasts just like this one. Remember, we've got 2 more to go tonight. The Indy Next Series from Suzuka, and our man Jacob Collins says it might be a wet one, is going to go live at 9 o'clock. And then we've got the Onyx Racing League at 9:05, Lotus 79s from Road America. And if you want to see something funny, Jacob, high comedy, watch me try to run a road course in a 30-year-old car. Casey Povolonis has come to the pit lane, and let's see if he's able to execute a pit stop correctly here. Locks up the left front. And there we go. Marco Brazil also is going to hit the pit lane. So this is final stops now. 40 laps to go here from Homestead. Povolonis and Marco Brazil are going to start the pit stop train, and that leaves the best battle on the track. Seb Alexander and Kyle Clenworth. Blaze Andrich is your leader with 40, now 39 laps to go, Jacob.
And to think that's still just under a third of this race distance to go here tonight.
One of my favorite movie quotes, of course, Jacob Collins. You've got Shane Coker talking about ringing the bell. Do you want to ring the bell? Asked Rocky Balboa. Reaches over, hits the imaginary bell. Ding, ding. Apollo Creed. Great. Great memory of, what is that? Rocky 3, Jacob, I believe.
You'd know better than I do.
I believe that's the end of Rocky 3. Do want to welcome Luis into the chat. We are 37 laps to go in the Indy iRacing Indy Open Top Split live from the Homestead Miami Speedway. It is this man, Blaze Andrich, in the Rogue Racing entry, leading fellow Rogue Racer Kyle Clenworth. Seb Alexander has pulled his Indy Alliance car out of second place and onto the pit lane. Caleb Brashear, the Sim Gaming Expo king, and there's Caleb. He's got his nightlight working, Jacob, and he's lit himself into third place. Anna Klimek, Anna the Deer, is fourth, and there's Anna in the TMR machine, Taylor Mills Racing, and Alan Berteau for Fiercely Ford is in fifth. That is your top 5. We are in a pit cycle, and now it's going to come down, in my opinion, Jacob, when are we going to see Blaze Andrich come to pit lane? And here he comes. So Andrich now, 35 to go. He's going to hit the pit road. Clindy is going to go in the lead. He's going to go for another circuit.
One thing that will be interesting to watch here as we see Andrich hits the pit lane is Kyle Clenworth closed the gap up to Andrich about a half second, got it down to about just outside of 1 second before Andrich hit the pit lane. So we'll see if that gap closes up further through the pit cycle if Clenworth's able to make another charge at it.
Well, here he comes. He's on the pit road himself. Here comes Kyle Clenworth again on board. We've seen a lot of drivers run second gear through there. Clindy in third gear. And he hits pit road in first gear. That's a little bit more conservative than most of his peers. Meanwhile, Caleb Brashear in the Luke Mansky Racing Esports machine, he's going to burn that nightlight right into the lead, Jacob.
Got to get a couple of laps led on the board, right?
You know, you do, and you never know what's going to happen. If caution flew right now, Caleb Brashear would be one happy, happy man. It is worth noting that Seb Alexander is circulating a half a second faster than Caleb Brashear has been. Also, Alexander, and we're going to watch the race off of pit road because Alexander is catching Clindy, and he is well past. Alexander has also made it past Blaze Andrich. There is a 4-lap tire differential from Alexander to Andrich and 5 laps in hand for Kyle Clenworth. So let's watch that battle. But right now, Seb Alexander has flipped the script, and he is leading Blaze Andrich with 31 laps to go, Jacob.
And the biggest thing here that I'm going to see is that Clenworth lost a good bit of time. It's now in the clutches of Ty Keela and Casey Povolones for the bottom step of the podium. We'll see if they opt to play nice here.
He is. Clindy lost almost 2 full seconds on that exchange. He is now 2 seconds behind Blaze Andrich and Seb Alexander, and Andrich all over the back of the Indy Alliance entry. Both drivers drill the high side. They're gonna go heads up here for the win. Alexander moves to block it low. Andrich is gonna go high, Jacob.
And we saw it in the middle stint, but it's going to likely come down to whoever has the best tires come the end of it. And there's an opportunity for maybe, say, a Clenworth or a Ty Keeler or a Casey Povolones to take advantage of these guys fighting at the front and using their stuff up.
There is indeed, and you would think that the setups on these two cars, these are technical alliance members. Brashear and Edwards, by the way, have not stopped. So this is the battle for technically third spot, although it will become the lead once the Luke Mansky cars make it onto pit lane. It's worth pointing out that the setup should be very similar. So if there's any tire savings to be found, it's very much Jacob. On the side of driver input, not anything that they've done in the engineering room.
I'd argue that's always where it is.
I mean, we could have that argument. I have some different opinions on it. You're right. I mean, driver input does have a lot to do with it. But there's no substitute for having a setup that's perfectly dialed in, right? So I don't care how good your inputs are. If the car's not right, these are not stock cars. You can't make them handle. The only way to get them to handle if they're off setup-wise is just to slow down, you know? It is worth mentioning, and you talked about Clindy. We talked about him, Jacob, earlier. He was 2 seconds down. These two have got to fighting, and Clindy has now worked his way to within 0.6 of a second of Blaze Andrich. Clindy was out of the draft not too long ago.
And that's exactly going to be the thing that I think these guys battling for the lead are going to be concerned with, right? It's going to come down to not this lap, not 5 laps from now, but 25 some odd laps from now as to who wins this thing. And that's going to be the time when whoever used their stuff up, it's really going to show.
Do you start playing chess instead of checkers here? Maybe if you're Alexander and say, look, I'm not gonna weave around in front of Andrich. I'm not gonna weave around with Andrich. I'm just gonna run the high line and try to throw as much dirty air in the direction of that number 1 as I can. Try and use up his tires for him. And at the same time, with Andrich running the bottom, if I'm running the top, preserve my own.
I think we're well past that. We've got the dragon out in full effect. There's cars all over the straightaways on both ends of the track here. I think the time to fight has started now. We're just going to have to see how many cars get caught up in it.
Caleb Brashear just set the purple lap. Caleb Brashear, 24,941, 213 miles an hour. Normally, I would read out the lap records here. I haven't had a chance to do that yet. Of course, the track record here for the present layout with IndyCars, 24,682. That was set by Sam Hornish back in 2004. 2004, Jacob. A Dallara IR03. How about that?
I mean, that thing's an all-time classic.
I mean, at this point, it's an antique. But Sam Hornish Jr., 24,682 on this configuration in an IndyCar. Tiago Medeiros owns the Indy Lights, or Indy Next, if you will, track record, 28,412. The NASCAR track record would be Kevin Harvick, 31,527, 2019. The flat oval, Dario Franchitti, 26,8 and a quarter. And we talked about Greg Moore with 28,385 on the original configuration. This track does have road course configurations. The original road course, here's a name for you, Bernd Schneider in a Mercedes CLK Le Mans, 1998. Minute 16 around the road course, 116,495. The modified road course in an LMP 900, James Weaver in a Crawford, that was set in 2002, a minute 10,791. Buddy Rice, now there's a name for you, in the 2009 Gainesville Grand Prix in Miami, minute 12, 136 in a Daytona prototype in a Coyote. How about that?
That's a name we get to hear a good bit here at IndyCar land, don't we?
Coyote or Buddy Rice? I'd argue
Buddy
that
Rice.
I'd argue that we don't hear the name Buddy Rice nearly enough. He was one of my favorite drivers when I was in college. And to be fair, Jacob, I always thought of Buddy Rice as kind of the forgotten Indy 500 winner of that decade. You know, people think about, you know, Castroneves and DeFerrin and whatever else. But Buddy Rice, you know, he stepped into a car vacated by an injured Kenny Breck, went out and won the race, and then he had a great run the next year, overshadowed by Danica Patrick's arrival, and just kind of faded from the scene after that. You know, left Rahal Letterman and then got into cars that weren't as competitive over time. He ran a Champ Car race, if you recall, in Mexico City in 2005. That was about 7 or 8 years overdue. He had been an Indy Lights champion and never gotten a chance to run, as Clindy is looking every which way he can, thinking about a move on Andrich, and he can't get any lower, certainly. And Seb Alexander's on the top, and this is going to start getting dicey, especially, you know, Jacob, you think about these three, they're in Discord together.
Well, I think the biggest thing here too, right, is they've clearly came to the same conclusion I think we up here and everybody watching at home has, is it's going to be likely one of these three cars that wins this race here tonight. It's just going to be who leads the lap.
Yeah, it is going to be who leads the lap, and that's down to it. And where do you want to be? Do you want to be second, where you're Seb Alexander and you can drive in on the last lap and pinch Blaze Andrich down to the bottom? Do you want to be Clindy and try to slingshot both of them? Where do you want to position yourself for this final lap? Do want to welcome everybody in attendance to the P1 Broadcasting Network. You've got Murph and you've got Collins. We are getting down time to settle business as Clindy goes around Seb Alexander into that second spot, and he's going to immediately look to the high side on Blaze Andrich. Clindy going to go for the lead here in a turn one, Jacob.
Yeah, now it's going to come down to, can he break that that magical clean air bubble. We've seen passes for the lead be made, but it seems very much down to being able to kind of get just enough of a run to clear the car. And that's going to be difficult to do on this high side here, as we've seen pretty much all the passes for the lead come near that bottom lane of the track.
We have indeed. It's worth mentioning the black and green machine, the black and highlighter green car back there is Rashad Craig. He is 2 laps down now, not involved in this fight. Andrich and Clindy awfully close coming off of turn 2.
This might be the opportunity that Kyle's looking for, is that it got really close down the backstretch, but he's going to have to tuck back into line down the front stretch here one more time. We'll be coming to, I believe, 11 to go this time.
Yes, indeed, it is 11 to go. Andrich on the bottom, Clindy on the top. It is worth noting, Clindy is the number 1 car. That means highest I rating in the split. Seb Alexander, the number 2 car. That means second highest. Blaze Andrich, he's number 11, Jacob.
And this is where I tell everyone that I rating is just a number and that Blaze Andrich is one of the most talented drivers I've ever seen in my entire life.
I mean, he is. He's very, very good. Had been well inside the top 21 before a wheel failure in the Pro Series qualifiers last week in Indianapolis. And Andrich, you know, yes, I rating is just a number in terms of talent, but he really could use the I rating, Jacob, come pro qualifier time, because we have a big race and it's going to be on an oval next week or this week.
Well, I think that's also the big thing that you got to kind of look out for too, right? Is that's been one of the few situations you've heard guys with, you know, say a Kevin Burrell or others that have talked about how it's so hard to be put up in those top splits for those pro qualifiers. You're going up against, you know, the Drago Racings and the Red Lines of the world, so that becomes a whole new playing field.
You know, it most certainly does. Watching Clindy now, Rashad Craig still wants to unlap himself. He would love to get past these guys, because if they happen to run over each other, and Jacob, I don't think they're going to hit each other intentionally for sure. Seb Alexander has dropped way back from this. They're not going to hit each other on purpose, but I'll tell you what they can have is they're awfully close. You can have a netcode incident here, take both of them out, and put Rashad Craig effectively back on the lead lap as he get one lap down. But you could put Rashad Craig back on the lead lap, because certainly at this point in the run, everybody would come to pit lane and get tires.
Well, you know what I think just played out there is that the lap car actually got used as a reverse pick, if such a thing is possible. I think that Craig going to the bottom kind of used up the air that Andrich was looking for through the corner, and that allowed Clenworth to kind of build that run on the high side, and he's taking the lead now. And that might be all she wrote.
It may be. The other thing is Clindy's going to get the draft, and you're right. It's using it's not that Rashad's doing anything wrong. He's using up a lane of air, and so it provides Blaze Andrich with fewer options and places to go. And Andrich into the wall.
Light scuff. He'll probably be fine, but he's staying tucked right up behind Clenworth down these straightaways here, trying to give it all she's got. We'll see if he makes a charge at it with a couple laps to go here.
We will indeed. Blaze Andrich is going to give it his all, but Rashad Craig is definitely helping Kyle Clenworth. Not only is he getting the draft on the straightaways, but again, he's taking away, and Andrich again scrapes that wall on entry, but he's essentially blocking the low lane from an aero standpoint, and Andrich just cannot build a run.
Well, a run's going to take time to build, and he's just got to make it at the right time. We're going to see him go to the bottom here. That'll be a lane open.
It is. Now Andrich is going to pull up in front of Clindy. Clindy is going to pull the swap, go right back to the bottom. Clindy does clear him. Now I had thought that, and we'll jump on board with Blaze Andrich, I had thought that Rashad Craig, or we'll jump on board with Clindy rather, Rashad Craig may be far enough up the road now, Jacob, that he's not affecting Kyle Clenworth and Blaze Andrich any longer.
Slight graze of the wall for Andrich again in 1 and 2. I think that might be enough to put him out of it, unless there's a big run coming here, as we'll come around 3 and 4 for one more lap.
We're going to get the white flag. Barney's got it in his hand as Clindy comes around at turn number 4. There's the white flag. This is the last lap here on the P1 Broadcasting Network. It's Clindy in the lead. Andrich second. We'll see if Blaze Andrich has anything. And can Seb Alexander mount a charge? Seb is on the bottom. He's going to go past Andrich for second here.
Yeah, big wall drag through 1 and 2 for Andrich again. I think he was just committed trying to stay as close to that wall as possible to get the draft, and unfortunately just not able to keep it out of the wall.
He did not. Clindy is going to flash under the start-finish line. He will win. Seb Alexander second. Blaze Andrich will come home third. And Caleb Brashear has a wonderful night in the points, Jacob. He's going to bring it home fourth. Anna Klimek is fifth.
Wire. Can't ask for much more than that.
You cannot. This race took place in a hot 58 minutes. Kyle Clinworth is your winner. Seb Alexander second. Blaze Andrich is going to come home third. Caleb Brashear fourth for Luke Mansky Racing Esports. And the Taylor Mills Racing entry of Anna Klimek will be fifth. In sixth, Casey Povolonas, the cheese man, ran it, gave it a good ride early. He's going to bring it home sixth. Then Ty Keela, Alan Berteau, Marco Brazil, Logan Edwards will round out your top 10. Again, it's worth noting, Jacob, that could be a huge points deal for Brashear moving into the last 3 weeks, that he was able to gain a ton on Berteau in a pretty stout oval SOF. In 11th, you've got Olivier Simonu, David Hinger, Ella Spice, and Rashad Craig will round out your 14 starters here at Homestead Miami Speedway. And while we wait for interviews, Jacob, that was fast, man. It's 8:10 and we're getting ready to do interviews. Normally speaking, road races are kind of like this, but you expect a caution or two on an oval.
Just goes to show when you got the best in the biz and they can put one together, it gets done real quick.
You know, it most certainly does. We're with you, Shane Coker. It was a really good show. We're waiting on the guys to pile into the interview room. You know, and I think, Jacob, what I'm hearing from Seb Alexander in the chat is that he is going to decline the interview. Blaze Andrich may also be in that same boat. So we're going to go ahead and bring up Kyle Clinworth, who is tonight's winner. Clindy, that was a fight, brother.
Oh, man, that was a blast is what that was. Holy smokes. I cannot put into words how much fun I had there at the end. I'm just glad that Blaze and Seb got racy and allowed me to catch back up, because I lost so much time on pit road back to back. I lost 2 seconds the first time, I think 3 seconds the second time. I think half that, or maybe 7/10 of that the second time, was just because I came a lap later and I was on older tires. But if I don't know, man, that was a ton of fun. Throwing sliders and dive bombs on your teammates and everybody giving each other room was awesome. Can't say enough about it. I would have said the same if I finished third or if I finished second. I was just fortunate enough to have found an adjustment to Jesper's setup that made the car feel much better for me, and I think proved that I had better long run pace and allowed me to overcome my blunders coming to pit road. I mean, like, I didn't mess up coming to pit road. I just wasn't as fast as Seb or Blaze, and those guys are great at it, right? It's just having the road course discipline to be able to get down and onto pit road at 100%, whereas I only felt comfortable going 80, right? And that translates into a second or a second and a half every time.
Oh, for certain, sure. That's something that I've long struggled with to the point where, you know, this I will get text messages from my father during races, and they're invariably, "Why are you so slow getting on and off a pit road?" So I completely get that. It's just something, it's something we all have to practice. But I'm with you, Clindy. I very rarely press it getting on and off pit road. Jacob, what do you have for tonight's winner?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of saw the changing of the guard throughout the runs here tonight, and it turned into you having to change the guard to win out the race here tonight, despite a dominant opening portion of this race. Kind of talk us through what it takes to keep yourself in a race like that when you're having to make up the deficit just through the way that the race plays out.
Yeah, I think some of that was stint 2 when the sun started to go all the way down. My car did not immediately like what the temperature was doing, and I had to find different tools to run for the second half of the race. Basically, I was really slow. That's when Seb was like running to my outside and just passed me from lane 2. I just didn't have my tools right, and I was just scrubbing speed in every corner and put myself on the back foot to start the last stint. And I had found some tools that worked for me, and we shaped up, had a great race, and really had a ton of fun there, adjusting and working my way through the changing conditions, and coming back from a deficit. I felt like they didn't bury me deep enough. They probably could have worked together to keep me behind if they had just blocked my air every lap, but I got fortunate that we were all a little nicer to each other than that, and it let me come out on top.
Come out on top, you did, Clindy. And as the winner, you get the mic. Friends, family, sponsors, shout-outs. The floor is yours.
Yeah, a trio of my favorite people have birthdays today, so happy birthday to my favorite set of twins and to my buddy Casey back in Illinois. Shout out to my friends, family, and sponsors, so mom, dad, brother, sister, extended family, nephew, sister-in-law, soon-to-be, brother-in-law, Austin, Shelly, Alex, Hillary, Catherine, Brian, Hannah, everybody who has ever tuned into a race, my cousin Craig, who runs Segerman Farms. Thanks to you guys in the booth at P1. Thanks for putting this on so my family can watch and root me on every Monday and Tuesday and whenever it matters. And shout out to Jesper and Seb for cracking on and putting on this awesome set. Rashad made some changes that I made a change to from Jesper's set, and Seb went a different way, but all of our sets were like toe-to-toe, equal, blow for blow. It was awesome to have the variety to choose one or the other and find what works for you. And thanks to all the people who run Techtopia Systems who help us bring Tuesday Night Top Split. And if you go to advanced.gg, I stayed focused today because I had some of their Focus Watermelon Kiwi energy supplement drink. You can check out with promo code ClendySendy, and they'll give you 15% off your order. Sorry, I've got an adrenaline rush, so I'm stumbling through my words.
Yeah, no worries, man. It definitely is an adrenaline rush watching you every week. Keep going fast, having fun, buddy, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. That is Kyle Clinworth. We're gonna let him off the hook, and we'll get Blaze Anderich in here. Blaze, you've got Murph, and you've got Jacob Collins in the P1 broadcasting booth. I gotta ask, how much did those wall hits at the end affect your race car?
They didn't actually damage my car at all. I kept hitting a button that I have mapped on my steering wheel as far as it reports damage. It didn't affect my car in any way. I brisked the wall a little bit a couple of times in that first stint just because I was running the wall a couple times. No, the car's a tank and just piled right through. My tires were a little bit on the worn side towards the end of that, so I didn't have a whole lot left for Clendy and then Seb at the end there. But no, great race today.
Most certainly was. Mr. Collins.
Yeah, we kind of saw the battle between you and Seb in the last stint to kind of allow Kyle back into it. How much was that in the back of your head through the opening portion of that, thinking of if there was an opportunity that he was going to catch you before the race played itself out?
I think at that point I was kind of just more focused on trying to keep the lead from Seb rather than trying to keep it away from trying to keep the gap to Clendy. I figured that with Clendy's new tires, he would have been able to pull on us anyway, and I just wanted to keep the clean air in front of my nose, keep the car in the top position, have everyone behind me. I do think, looking back on it now, I did wear my tires out way too quickly, weaving down the straights. And I think I did that a little bit early, but I mean, I don't run ovals much, so I'll learn.
Well, learn you did, and something that you'll continue to learn and continue to get more and more familiar with. When you get on the podium here on P1, you get the mic. Friends, family, sponsor, shout-outs. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks to all the guys on the Alliance team. The setup was great today. It drove fantastic. Thanks to all the guys who put effort into that. Thanks to P1 Broadcasting for putting these on every week. Thanks to, I think my dad and my friend are in the crowd. Anyone else who is watching, thanks to them. And yeah, I think that's about it.
Cool deal. Well, thank you so much for dropping in, Blaze. Keep going fast, having fun, buddy, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Jacob.
Yes, sir. That is Blaze Andrich. He is your third place finisher tonight. Do want to point out that Seb Alexander let me know via private message that he is headed straight away to the oval race in Pocono, and so Seb Alexander will not be joining us for an interview, but we do want to give Seb his due. He would like to send his congratulations to Clindy, Blaze, and the rest of the Alliance teammates that were in the field today. Everybody had a really, really awesome run. Tequila came home, remember, in the top 5 as well, and so thank you. Seb would like to thank all of the team and sends his congratulations. For me, Jacob, that was an interesting race from a tactical standpoint. You had comers and goers on tires. You had guys getting on and off a pit road a lot more quickly. You had some drivers that were slower on and off a pit road. You had guys burning up their tires. And Blaze mentioned a key point, I think, is that we think of the Dragon as purely an aero draft maneuver, but you got to be careful doing that. It'll burn your tires up weaving like that across the straightaways.
Well, I think people forget that's how you warm your tires in a lot of cases. We see it in pace laps on road courses all the time.
We most certainly do. And if you like to see road courses, there's a pair of them tonight. Immediately following this, Jacob Collins is going to go live with the Indy Next Road Series. That's going to be live from Suzuka at 9. And then Gary Godso, Luis Gonzalez Nunez, they're going to have the Onyx Racing League from Road America. That's Lotus 79s at 9:05. We do want to thank all of the viewers tonight. Had a wonderful crowd in here this evening. Again, if you haven't already done it, make sure you hit the like button on the video, ring the bell, subscribe to P1 so that you can get a message about everything that we continue to offer. But we really want to thank the people that make it possible, and it's not the drivers and it's not the fans. It's the first responders, the police, the military, the firemen, the EMTs, Jacob, that drive you to the hospital, and the nurse that unloads you when you get there. From the bottom of our hearts, we thank you. We will see you all in about 40 minutes. Have a good one, everybody.